Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to EFC's Book Chat. I read a book every other day and talk about my insights on the book and the relevance to executive functions. This time around, we're reading The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I just finished chapter 4. It's entitled The Third Agreement, Don't Make Assumptions. If you like what I talk about this chapter, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. Comment down below about what you enjoyed. If you have some qualms with what I talk about, let us know your feedback down below. We always love hearing your feedback and ways on how to improve our commentary and insights. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So what I want to actually start off with, because I think the idea of don't make assumptions is very much like the last couple of chapters, where it's a very simple concept. It's a very, simple thing that, like, hey, don't try to read my mind. Like, just ask me straightforward, be more blunt, etc. Be more clear in your communication. But it's something that we hear and hear and hear, but we don't actually know how to do it. And we don't actually have a good, or at least I don't actually have a good fundamental understanding of, how it actually affects my life. I don't really think about it. And I think what Reese does in this chapter is he really calls for us to think about how our lives will be different if we don't make as many assumptions. And he starts off the chapter by saying, when we make an assumption, we misunderstand. We take it personally, and we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing. And if you guys recall, on Wednesday, I talked about how I actually crave drama at times. I talk about how, if there's a certain occasion, like a reunion with my friends, if we don't have a specific drama, then it just doesn't feel right. And I sometimes think that when we have agreements with ourselves and agreements with those around us, these agreements tend to be assumptions. And these assumptions, probably change on a day-to-day basis. These assumptions probably, are altered based on a certain situation or scenario. But because we hold these assumptions as agreements, we don't recognize that sometimes they change. And when they do change, we get so rigid in our thought process and structure that we get angry, we get defensive, and we are not sure why there is that change. And the assumption we thought was like law, that was an agreement that we've already had with those around us. And I think that one of the ways that I like to address assumptions that cause unrealistic expectations in my own life and with my clients in executive function coaching is reflective journaling. So what Reese talks about, I think, is very interesting, and I'm going to actually read it to you. I believe it's on page 69. He says, we also make assumptions about ourselves, and this creates a lot of inner conflict. I think I am doing this because of blah, 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 blah. You make this assumption, for instance, then you discover you aren't able to do it. You overestimate or underestimate yourself because you haven't taken the time to ask yourself questions and answer them. Perhaps you need to gather more facts about a particular situation, or maybe you need to stop lying to yourself about what you truly want. Now, I think that last part is really important. We're going to actually address it, but I think let's talk about what reflective journaling actually calls for myself and for all my clients to do. Reflective journaling actually calls us to be as specific as possible about what we want to accomplish during the day and why we want to accomplish that. And I think the why is so critical when it comes to individuals with executive function challenges, because initiation, inhibition, shifting, time management, all those things are so difficult and they cause the head to kind of hurt. So it's important to really have a strong reason of why you may want to do something or I may want to do something. And we only build more commitment to our goals and the structure that we want to set for our day when we truly think about all the steps, the reasons for those steps, the potential obstacles for those steps, and really brainstorm and think about how we can go about accomplishing realistically those steps in our day. And that comes back to truly asking yourself, is this what you want to do? And is this going to help you reach your end goal? And I do this every day. And I do this, after I eat my breakfast, after I drop off my nephew, etc. But I think what ends up happening sometimes, at least for myself, is that when life kind of takes control and I'm late because there's traffic on the way to dropping off my nephew, or I burnt my breakfast and have to remake it, etc. And I don't have the time that I really want to set for journaling, and I end up rushing the journaling process and making assumptions. And when I start making some assumptions, I start assuming that maybe, the project brainstorm that I want to do with one of my employees is actually going to take 30 minutes. But in reality, I didn't really think about that. This is actually a new project, so it might actually take an hour. So when I allocate only 30 minutes for that, because I didn't allocate enough time to really think about this project, then what ends up happening is that when we're planning this project, talking about this project, I have this 30-minute time block in my mind set out for this project. And by the time the 30 minutes runs to the end, we're not done. I get very agitated and feel like, well, why aren't we done yet? This was the expectation. And why aren't they getting it? I thought I explained everything perfectly because I'm always perfect. A joke. These are the things that happens when we make assumptions. We're not clear with our communications to ourselves, and we're not clear to the communications to others. Now, I think this, beyond work, right? I think we can all probably assume that the idea of making assumptions goes very close to our personal lives as well. And I think Reese talks about this well in page 68. So he says, these assumptions are made so fast and unconsciously most of the time because we have agreements to communicate this way. We have agreed that it is not safe to ask questions. We have agreed that if people love us, they should know what we want or how we feel. When we believe something, we assume we are right about it to the point that we will destroy relationships to defend our position. Now, let's break that down piece by piece, right? I think the first part that I thought was very interesting is that we have agreed that it is not safe to ask questions. And what happens when we don't ask questions? We're making assumptions, and we make assumptions. And what actually happens is that we end up, taking more time to accomplish something or to communicate with those close to us. When we don't ask questions, we don't meet deadlines, and that's frustrating for everybody else around us. And when we don't ask questions, we end up thinking that, well, I spend so much time doing this for you. Why don't you appreciate it? But in reality, you probably did the wrong thing. So how is it possible to appreciate somebody for doing the wrong thing? And so it's actually okay to ask questions. And asking questions is like the biggest way to overcoming the idea of not making assumptions. Now, the next thing I think I could definitely agree with is we have agreed that if people love us, they should know what we want or how we feel. How many times, either with our significant other or family members, have we gotten into fights because they should know that we want Wood Ranch, or they should know that whenever I get barbecue, I want beef ribs and not pork ribs, because pork ribs sometimes just does not have enough meat on it and it's like not fulfilling, right? All these different assumptions that because we've experienced all these different things with those close to us, we assume they remember and we assume that they know. But people are not perfect. People do not have immaculate memories, or etc. And it's unfair for us to assume that they know. So we should communicate that, and we should do it very clearly so that there isn't any misunderstandings, etc. Now, I think the last thing that really caught me with this quote is that we will defend our position, even if it means destroying relationships. How many friends have we all lost because we disagreed on what was the best cartoon growing up? Something that was so small and probably insignificant to our actual relationship that cascaded to maybe political beliefs or maybe relational beliefs or etc. And just because of one assumption, we get so riled up and so mad, and we take things personally that we say things that we don't actually mean, and it ends up ruining a relationship. And I think that when I think about this agreement, I really reflect on it. I can think about even a simple example of what to eat. I think that's like the most common relationship strife is, what do we eat tonight, right? And for me, I could eat whatever. I have no real preferences. And my partner should just know, like, whatever she cooks or whatever we go buy, it's going to be fine for me. But for my partner, you know, it's hard to make decisions. And I know that, but I don't want to make decisions because it's hard for me to make decisions. And we make all these assumptions about what we each want. And at the end of the day, we end up not eating until like super late and stuff. Makes us all grumpy, makes me grumpy, and ends up causing more strife in the relationship. When we communicate without assumptions, right? Conversations are clear, expectations are clear, and our words truly become impeccable, right? Reflecting back to the last couple of chapters, they're impeccable for others and they're impeccable to ourselves. And we don't take things personally, right? And we live life without the fear or the doubt of, well, am I making somebody mad? Is somebody disappointed in me? Am I, bumming somebody out? Am I killing the vibe? We live our lives without any of these fears, and we actually end up becoming happier. And we live our lives full of the seeds of love, like Reese talks about, instead of the seeds of fear. So I hope you guys found that interesting. I hope you guys were reading along. If not, if you want to pick up the book, I think it's a great book. Check it out. If you have any questions or feedback, etc., comment down below. If you like what we talk about, please like the video. If you like me in general, please subscribe to our channel. It means the world to me and my team. Appreciate it. Talk to you guys next week.